Hello and welcome to All for United. It's even Donald Trump's guilty pleasure. There's a joke in there somewhere for some of you highbrow people. Thought I'd throw that one in there. But yes, lovely to have you all along with us. It's an absolute pleasure. You'll have to forgive me. I was in a funny mood. I was listening to Dire Straits' Romeo and Juliet when Andrew Wall came in for some strange reasons. It popped into my head. And now I can't Let's Get It Started out of my head by the Black Eyed Peas. Two very different types of music for two very different reasons. Dan's got himself missing. I'm sure he'll be back by the time we get round to him. But as you can see, we have assembled an Avenger-like panel for this evening's joy and festivities as we hand out, just like we did with the mid-season awards, the end-of-season awards. We've got a newbie because obviously Dan Bateman was in that one last time and he's not around this evening. So an able substitute of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer capabilities just below us here, Mr. Matthew Morgan. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm really good. Glad to be back on again. It's nice to do a more chilled show, let's say, rather than having to discuss a game, for example. But yeah, nice to be back on. Should be a good show.
Absolutely good to have you back on. So thank you for joining us. And after that big build-up, we've got a lot to live up to there. And then, of course, we've got Andrew. I've run out of things to say about Andrew Wall at the moment. I can't build him up anymore. Andrew Wall, how you doing, sir?
I'm all good. Still on the high from what happened last weekend. Winning the FA Cup. So, as I said, it will live long in the memory that day. Last week.
Absolutely. It's only 7 days ago, chaps. 7 days ago that Dan led you all on here for a merry little celebration, and what a time it was. Honestly, absolutely mad. And yeah, we go, and we get to keep that for a whole year. How wonderful. And just over here on my left hand side, the right hand man, Mr. Dan Field. How the devil are you today, sir?
I've watched a lot of FA Cup highlights today. It's been quite good. 7 days on, you've got to.
Well, yeah, that's true. Of course, we have the, what do you call it? What's that thing? European Cup final. That's the word I was looking for. It was there, and then it went. It's a danger of getting old. But yes, we have the European Cup final to look forward to. I'm sure that Dan will keep you up to date because I'll be gobsmacked if it's not there. So I'm sure. Is it not there? Oh, Dan, you let me down here. I'm going to have to rely on Sky Sports potentially to let us know what's going on, or indeed the people in the chat. But who cares about that? It is awards time, boys and girls. We are going to, as we've done before, deliver our awards. We're going to kick off with the Premier League wide ones, just get them out of the way. Which we used last in the mid-season one that we did as well. So we're going to kick off with a nice, easy one. The most improved player from last season. The player who, for you, has made you think, do you know what? He's had a much better season than he did last season. Last season, he wasn't so great. This season, he's absolutely nailed it. Thank you very much, John Commode. You can be our Chris Kamara for the evening. Just make sure you see all the people that get sent off. That's all we ask from you. We're going to kick off with Dan because we know that Dan has done extensive research into all of this. So I, for one, can't wait to hear what he has for us. Dan, talk to us, fella. Who is your most improved player in the Premier League?
So this one's easy for me, actually. So I'm glad you came to me first. Gives the other guys time to think. Dominic Solanke. I think it's the only answer it could possibly be for me because I said at the start of the season he's the worst striker the Premier League has ever seen, and he's turned out to be actually quite good this season. So yeah, I think he's been really, really good, and you can tell by the teams that he's been linked with now, as well as Bournemouth finishing the league. So for me, that's quite an easy one. I think Solanke's been much more improved than last season. Not more to say on him, really. He's been fantastic. No arguments. I will happily take back what I said. He's been absolutely sensational this season.
Very interesting indeed that you're coming with that. Loving the fact that for Premier League awards, we've managed to get some that have got a Manchester United player in it, and that is Harry Maguire from not just Marie, but also for NT. Can't really look past his improvement for me. And I suppose when you sit and think about it, Andrew, you can understand why it is that we've got two people coming in and saying that. He's gone from being somebody who was sure to be sold off to West Ham, and he's come in and he's had to be a stalwart in the centre of defence. Granted, due to the injury list and everything that's been going on with that. But what would you make of this situation? Would you go Harry Maguire, or have you got somebody else in mind for you?
I'd say Harry Maguire, yeah. I'd say, as we said, back in the summer, then we all thought he was out the door and probably put his own sanity in mind, the way he was getting abused, on social media for as we said, he could have 50 brilliant performances and one bad performance, and we'd all focus on the bad performance. So the Harry, he fought back, and he was yeah, I had to start on the bench a few times, but then once he got back in, he was giving man of match performances. Just unfortunate when he got injured when he did, and also trying to get back for the. I thought he would have got back for the cup final, and then before the cup final, Ten Hag said, "Oh, he's just not going to make it." It was but then we had Varane and Martinez in the centre back pairing, and what a performance they gave as well. So yeah, definitely. Whether Harry stays beyond the summer, well, it's going to be an interesting summer. But just on saying the most improved player in the Premier League overall, I flitted between two because they both played well against us. But probably going to go Newcastle's Anthony Gordon because yeah. So when he first got to Newcastle, he was he struggled, to adapt to Eddie Howe's style. But then I think he went away with England in the previous summer, and then he had a starring role, and just he went into the Premier League season just now one of the he got better as he went along, and so he had 11 goals and 10 assists across the season. So yeah, I think he scored against us at Old Trafford, and he was always a threat against us as well. So that's to say, I was flitting between him and Eze as well, because Eze played well against us at Selhurst Park. So I just thought Anthony Gordon just slightly picked it for me. So he would be my most improved player across the season.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. John Camo's mentioned Phil Foden and Diogo Dalot if he was looking at United players. Matt, where would you go with the most improved player in the Premier League this season?
Bit an interesting one, mine. I'll start off debating between a few. I do agree with Dalot in terms of United. I think he's probably had one of his best seasons. Outside of United in the Premier League in general, I was actually going to go for Cole Palmer. I think considering how he came, where the position he was in at City, where everyone was saying he's a City reject, this and that, I think he's actually carried Chelsea throughout pretty much the majority of the season. And I think he's one of the main reasons why they finished where they finished come the end of the season. So yeah, Cole Palmer for me, I reckon is probably for me the most improved player compared to his situation from last season, definitely.
Can I change my mind?
Well, I mean, to be fair, Dan, that seems to be your thing on this channel.
Well, I was just thinking since Christmas, Mateta has been ridiculous, and he's another one that you could argue in comparison to last season, even the first 4 months of this season, 6 months of this season, he was awful. With the turnaround since the new manager's got at Crystal Palace, I'd give him a shout for biggest upturn in form as well.
Interesting. So you're changing your mind to Mateta. That's outrageous, really. But there we go. Matt, I do quite like that one. I have to say, I think if I was being the judge, which I am very much for this one, I would 100. I think I would. Cole Palmer's won it for me there on that one. I think
I don't like Cole Palmer as an answer though.
I'm not really fussed what you like.
Play devil's advocate. I don't think did he play that much for City last season, bar a few subs.
If you compare in terms of obviously the situation was in, obviously he wasn't in favour at City. I think he didn't really get his chance. So if you look at it compared to didn't get a chance to this season, I think he's absolutely blitzed it.
Yeah, you see, I agree 100%. He's going to be an answer later on for me. When we was talking most improved, I just don't feel like he played a lot last season to be classed as improved.
A
I
lot
feel
of
like
people
this.
would argue that is an improvement.
Well, we're seeing
Playing.
what he's capable of this season when he started, is what I mean. So we'll have to see what he does next season when now he's had a full season, if that makes sense.
Well, as I said, I'm going with Matt. So that makes it 2 against 1 against 1. So for you on that one, I'm afraid. But there we go. And as John Commode says, yeah, Cole Palmer, all very good shouts. So there you go. And Delow is, of course, also a good shout. But I mean, I also think if you're looking at it from a United point of view, it would also be fair to throw in Onana just in terms of the whole season, because he's had some unbelievable moments. So there we go. Right. Very good. That's why we're going to go then with that one. So we've got Mateta. That's who you've gone for in the end. Anthony Gordon, Cole Palmer, and Harry Maguire is the name that I've seen the most in the chat. So do get yours in as well, because when we put the tweet out, I'm going to do it as a vote situation. So we're going to put out loads of polls with these things. So what we think the fans reckon, what these three reckon, and that will be the 4 to vote for. Unless, of course, they all vote for the same person, in which case I don't know what we'll do then. That will require some creativity, and I shall think about that whilst I'm sat here quietly. But we shall move on to the next one. Now, this will be a very interesting answer. Who is your manager of the season? Shouldn't take years to think about where you want to go with this one, but which person do you think in the Premier League has led their team the best? And this time we'll start with Andrew, because if we just start with Dan all the time, it gets boring.
Probably one for me is Unai Emery at Aston Villa. I just thought, could they kick on again? And they literally have. And I was like, they were chasing that Champions League spot down. I thought, would they just falter at the end? And there was a few inconsistent results they had, and I think they was relying on City to beat Spurs, and then they got their qualifier. But I mean, what he's done there as well. I think it was up until December time they'd been on the longest winning run at home as well. It was Sheffield United that broke it and drew with them. So, but what he's done there and got those players how they played as well. It's just like, I bet Villa fans are, well, I know a Villa fan at work, I bet he's glad that Emery signed a new 5-year deal, because he said to me, don't think United are going to go and start pinching him. I said, no, Ten Hag's going to be here. So, but Emery's, I mean, last season he led Villa out at like the bottom half of the table to finishing the European places, and he's done it again. So, I mean, he almost like had a point to prove after he left Arsenal as well, because it didn't quite work out there for him. But it's like coming back and like, I've got unfinished business here. So it'll be interesting to see how Villa do next season with the Champions League football. Is it going to be? Were they going to get further than Newcastle did? Because they only they finished like outside of. They couldn't qualify for the knockouts. But yeah, Unai Emery for me is probably the one for me.
No, I think I've got to agree with you on that one, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know what the other two boys are going to go for, but John Commode's agreeing with you. I think he's a quality manager. He's done incredibly well on the continent as well. I'm pretty sure he was in charge of Villarreal, wasn't he, when we went to that ridiculous penalty shootout? And he's got a little something about him as old Unai. Matt, would you be going along with Unai Emery, or are you celebrating with somebody else?
No, my pick was Unai Emery as well. Yeah, there's absolutely no question about it for me. You could look at the likes of like people like Guardiola, because he's won the league, but it gets boring when you go for the same ones all the time. But I think Unai Emery's been top class, and I think that probably it's brilliant news to see this. He signed a 5-year contract, long-term future at Aston Villa. I bet the Villa fans are delighted. But yeah, no, Unai Emery for me, 100%. Got back into the Champions League. It's massive for Villa. That, so yeah, 100% Unai Emery.
Really is. You've got to give credit where it's due there, and very good, John, saying Vincent Kompany got the Munich job for his efforts at Burnley. I still can't get my head around that. Dan, is it a hat trick?
Yeah, Unai Emery. I'll just give a special nod to Pochettino. Can't believe he's been sacked. It's madness. To get to a final with that Chelsea side in the transition it's in, and to finish 6th when they looked completely out of it for half a season, It's the job he did there was incredible, really. But no, Unai Emery for me is unanimous. I think he's been sensational.
I'm surprised you did a little shout out there for Poch, if I'm honest with you. NT going, I'd go with Emery too. Been, even though, United maybe lose interest in all football for large parts of the season. Yeah, well done. But, yeah, I don't know. I think the Poch idea is an interesting one that you come up with there. He's one of those interesting managers who seems to just end up in conversations consistently. I'm just not convinced he's taken himself to sort of the level.
In terms of what I mean is, in terms of Chelsea, they finished 19 points better off this season than last season, and they got to a cup final. And they're just in disarray in terms of they're as badly run as we are at the minute, and he's still somehow got a tune out of them, and which is why Ten Hag should get a bit of credit. To be fair, he's got us to a cup final and won it. So, but yeah, I just thought I find it so strange they've sacked him, to be honest, and then to bring in a Championship manager. That it's confusing to me, really. I don't know what they're planning on achieving, but it's a strange one.
Very interesting indeed. And no, NT, Eben is not a name. I don't know why your phone would auto incorrect even to Eben. Not a clue. Eden I could have understood. Eben, don't know. Can't help you, mate. On that one, I'm afraid.
It was channeling its inner Emery. Good evening.
Indeed. Well, that one's just going to get tweeted. We'll have to just do that with a picture maybe of Unai Emery, which would be a bit weird on a United one. I don't know. Maybe we'll do that all together in the same thing. We'll see. But anyway, we're going to move on to something that in the mid-season awards, we found ourselves heavily mentioned. The underperformers of the season in the Premier League. So we've looked at sort of the high levels that we've seen for the most improved and, of course, for the manager. But the underperformers of the season, which team didn't quite do it for you this season? Matt, we'll kick off with you on this one.
I'll sort of going between two, but I have come to the conclusion, sadly, it's us. I was going between us and Chelsea, but I think the fact that Chelsea finished balls in the end, and obviously I know we ended off with a win at the end of the season, but I think just our league position, I know injuries has played a big part, but I think if you look at the quality within our squad over the course of the whole season, I'd say we've probably been one of the underperformers. And of course, everyone was expecting a lot better from us this year, but so to finish 8th, was it we finished? For me, yeah, I'd class that as probably as one of the underperformers for me. But it was between us and Chelsea, but I opted for us, sadly, because Chelsea did end up finishing above us in the end.
Very interesting. Dan, would you stick with that?
Tough one. Really, really tough one. I want to go somewhere different, though. I'm going to go for Brentford. Ultimately, Thomas Franks praised heavily, linked to lots of good jobs, etc. Did they finish 17th? Was it 17th?
16th.
16th.
Forest,
yeah. Just for the credit that he gets and that's leveled at Brentford in general for the football, they weren't very good last season at all. And I think at the start of the season, I don't think many people would have put Brentford as low as 16th. Like most people would have probably put them 10th. I think for the reason I'm going to be a bit nice to us is Ten Hag overachieved last season, and I think he's sort of underachieved this season, so it's a bit of a mix, but he looks worse because he overachieved last season. So I'm going to be a bit kind to us on this one, but for me, it's Brentford. I expect him to be higher.
Interesting. What about you, Andrew? Where would you go with this one? We've got a shout out for United. We've got a shout out now for Brentford. Which team hasn't tickled your pickle this season?
I was thinking, besides us, and we had such a disappointing league. Obviously, Brentford as well. Cause the previous 2 seasons they did all right. I was thinking maybe it's just like other teams have found them out. I just think another team. I think it's been happening for years, and you always expect more of them. Is Everton? They've just not just this season, previous seasons, and they've got their own issues behind the scenes. But you always expect Everton to be pushing higher, and they haven't been. And just like every season, you think, they're going to come back, and and they're going to be up towards the top of the table. But it just seems like Everton are just in like disarray at the moment. I'm just like, I know we complain about our owners and the Glazers and everything. I'm just thinking Everton, total collapse of their takeovers. Where do they go next as well? I'm saying there could be I know the dispute there won't be a fire sale of players, but come the start of the season, if there's nothing happening, well, Everton could be like decimated, and a bit like Villa years ago, they kept flirting towards relegation, and it finally caught up with them, and Villa had to sort of, go down and then regroup and then come back up. So, but yeah, I always expected a lot more of Everton in recent seasons, but they've just failed to live up to what I think we know they can do. But yeah, so yeah,
Very
It's an
interesting.
interesting one for you, Barry. So me and my brother's a Liverpool fan. We was looking at the tables the other day to see like who's improved from season to season, and I think it's since Ancelotti left, when Everton were like 10th, they've literally just avoided relegation every season. And Andy's spot on. It's a matter of time before it catches them and they go down. So like the owners and stuff really need to sort it out before it's too late. But again, like Andy says, it looks like they might get a points deduction as well going into next season if they don't do the quick fire sales. So they might actually
You're
go.
almost changing your mind from Brentford to Everton there, but
No, sticking with Brentford. Just.
So we've got Man United there, we've got Brentford, we've got Everton. The shouts that I'm seeing in the chat are mostly Brighton, although Connor has nominated himself. Not as many AFU men's channel appearances. He now owes us 5 halfway through the year. And yeah, it's outrageous. We're going to have to get him on a lot over the summer, I think, to try and catch up on these. And of course, it is, as well as John has just told us, 0-0 is the half-time score in the Champions League. So you're really not missing much for the spectacle of the season. Twillenber's in. Hello, sir. Lovely to see you. And Andy saying, to be fair to Everton, what they've had going on off the pitch, I don't think they've done too badly. Maybe not. I've got to be honest, I could have put a couple of shout-outs. I could have said Liverpool, hoping they were going to get the quadruple with Mr. Jurgen, and just seeing it gradually slip away bit by bit by bit. So I think they would be potential underachievers for me. Newcastle, I think, is a shout as well. You consider how well they've done this season, last season, and that they were nowhere near it really for the vast swathes of this season. I know they finished above us in the end, but I do enjoy the fact that they had Europe and were singing about it, and it just disappeared. How unfortunate for them. It's a fact though. Like you look at it, they were looking to win so much, and it did not work out well, did it, Billy? It didn't. It was really poor. If I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be really gutted. Literally, the only thing they had to celebrate as such was the fact that Klopp was going. He didn't have anything to wave at them or anything like that. He just literally had to go, let's sing about the new manager instead. So they really didn't have much, did they, bless them? And Sheffield United, again, Simon, was going to be my third one. I do think they were incredibly poor. When you consider how they've been in previous seasons, I don't think they've been as good. But Brighton absolutely seems to be the main one. Liverpool bottling pretty much everything. It's like you just don't do it. Don't say you're leaving. It's stupid. And NT saying, number one, don't call him Gaffer. That's what that's all about. Gaffer. He's not. Far too much respect, this man. You're like the Carrick. Oh, God, it's going to be so big, which is good because his hair will look normal sized. You're not flashy, but you're what makes the team tick and work. Underappreciated until you retire, then everyone will recognise the greatness. I want to know what you're after, NT. If you're hoping that he's going to make you win the prediction league next season, I think you are barking up the wrong tree there, Sunshine. There we go. Anyway, the opposite of that for us is this: the surprise team and the overachievers. Which team do we think in the Premier League has made us go, oh my God, didn't expect that this season? Now, I'm taking a guess. I can probably guess where some of you are going to go based on manager of the season, but who knows? Let's see what your creativity is like. Dan, Who would you say has been the surprise team or the overachievers for this season?
It's gonna have to be Aston Villa.
Okay.
There's no other answer I can give. Like that's the clear one because manager of the season, they've got top 4, etc. But I'm oddly going to give a shout out to Arsenal because they've ran Man City or an absolute juggernaut as close as loads of teams have, and it's incredible they're doing it, to be honest, because they're just a juggernaut. But yeah, Villa for me.
Bournemouth getting a shout mid group there. We've got a cut of 3 Villas and an Arsenal so far, and then Bournemouth being thrown in there as well. Andrew, who has shocked you this season?
You would think I would say Villa after saying Unai Emery manager of the season, but I'm going to go with what Andy said. Bournemouth has surprised me because I thought at the start of the season Gary O'Neill left, and was like Areola coming in. I was like, oh, they'd be favourites for the relegation, and they didn't start off too well, and they was trying to adapt to the style of play he was trying to impose, and they found their feet through the season, and I think they finished, their best position in a Premier League season. I think it was the most points as well. So, yeah, Bournemouth have surprised me as well. And also, just give a shout out to Crystal Palace, getting Oliver Glasner in as well. That was like a big game changer for them. So they had a strong end to the season as well. So, yeah, so Bournemouth, I thought they might have been flirting with relegation, and they weren't in the end.
Interesting. I mean, the fans are all pretty much going for Villa as well, though John Commode, for some reason, inexplicably going outside of the Premier League, as if that's been a rule for absolutely anything. You just wanted to get Kieran McKenna mentioned, didn't you? But because it's you, John, we'll do it. Absolutely. Kieran McKenna, a man deemed surplus to requirements and not good enough under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, has guided Ipswich from the depths of League One all the way up to the Premier League. Not bad for an absolute charlatan and a PE teacher, eh? Matt Morgan, what would you do? Who would you pick? Are you going with Villa, or are you going with Bournemouth, or has somebody else caught your eye?
No, yeah, my pick was Villa. Not so much he's not doing Villa any discredit calling them overachievers because they've had a really good season. They deserve to finish where they finished. But yeah, definitely, I don't think anyone was expecting necessarily Villa to finish 4th and get back into the Champions League. So yeah, they were up there, and like Dan said, Arsenal. I was debating between them and Villa because Arsenal are we all know what Arsenal are like and what they're known for. But to run City to the last game of the season, finish 2 points behind them, it's huge surprise.
Lovely, that's what I like to hear. So there we go. Anything I can do to make your life easier, John, there you go. Oh, more people excluding the Premier League now. Look, you've started. Leicester is a very good one. My one would have been Spurs. Check, because I genuinely don't think there were that many people who thought Spurs would have been in around the top 4, even knocking on the door, with Harry Kane, their top goal scorer, going off to Bayern Munich to lose the title to a team that hasn't won it for ages. God bless them. I find that really bizarre that they didn't necessarily get a shout out, because I don't think there was many people that thought they would offer much this season, and they did really well until they did their traditional Spurs decline. So
That's a very good shout.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm pleased you like that one. That'll be the third one going on the tweet, but I'll be amazed, gobsmacked in fact, if Aston Villa don't win that one in the tweet form of that. Right, last one before we start just worrying about Manchester United, which is what you probably expect us to do as it's a Man United channel. But player of the season. Now, this is interesting because this could be, of course, a Manchester United player. It'll be very interesting to see what you choose to go for. But who has been the outstanding player this season for you? Andrew.
Oh, I know we said I'm flitting between 2 here, and because we said Cole Palmer earlier, but with Cole Palmer, I don't know why City sold him, because they could have had an exceptional player, and I think he wanted first team football and everything. And why didn't Guardiola give it in? Because he would have, took that City side to another level. So, but I just think first, this person I'm going over is Declan Rice. I just think the money that Arsenal spent on him, he's justified it in his first, his season at Arsenal. So, when you say Arsenal have teams of the past have had that soft underbelly, whereas he's moved from West Ham to there. He's brought a reassuring presence to that back four, with his quality in front of him as well. So, and say he's always been a good tackler, and a ball winner, and he's good in the air as well as moving the ball around as well. So, yeah, so I wish United some ways had signed him, but whether we would have able to afford the 100 million plus for him is another question. But yeah, I think Declan Rice, he's one that's been a standout for me this season. So, but Cole Palmer comes a very close second. What if he hadn't have gone to Chelsea? They could have been fighting relegation this season. So without his goals, but yeah, Declan Rice.
Okay, just to confirm you've gone for Rice, maybe. Okay, no problem. So Declan Rice, Matt. Have you got the? I find it.
Opposite Leeds United.
If we were talking about Man United, I could understand him coming out with this, but in the entirety of the Premier League, all 20 teams just go, no, everybody's been crap or average. God bless you, mate. I don't know how you get up in the morning some days. Matt, who would you go for?
My pick was between two. It was actually between Cole Palmer, but I did opt for Phil Foden, as much as it kills me to say it. I think he's just been a standout. I think City are a good team. Also, we beat him in the cup final, but there's no denying how good a team City are, as much as it pains me to say that. But yeah, it was between Cole Palmer and Foden, but I did opt for Foden in the end. I think Foden's had a really good season for City, and he's scored some a few worldies as well along the way. So yeah, my pick was Foden, sadly.
That's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. What have you gone for, Mr. Field?
Ollie Watkins.
You've gone with John Commodian.
Oh, right, I didn't see that. Yeah, Ollie Watkins for me. Driving force behind Villa's amazing force, goals, assists, everything. When they've missed him, Villa have struggled. When he performs, they bang in form. So yeah, I think it's harder for him to perform at a club like Villa than it is for Foden to perform at a club like City. And then I think a special shout for Cole Palmer, because he's been something different this season. He's been absolutely amazing. But no, I just think because of what Villa have achieved this season, Ollie Watkins for me.
It's a very, very, very interesting one. I mean, Haaland's the top scorer. Palmer's been, I think, superb again on that one. I think there's a bit of a shout for Alexander Isak as well from Newcastle. He's been a pretty good player. Yeah, do you know what? It's going to require the world to, because even the chat split, they've had lots of different ones. Garnacho was thrown out by Simon, as well as Haaland. Foden's been mentioned twice. Rodri from Andy, which I think again is another great shout. No one, of course, was mentioned. So yeah, it's very interesting. I think what we'll do with that one is we will take Rodri and put him down on the list as well, and Garnacho, just because it's a United one, and we'll see. I'll have a think about that one. Mateta comes in, Simon there with that one as well. So there we go. All right, well, very intriguing. Some good choices and some good chat. But of course, as you are all very interesting. Yes, we haven't quite gone to young player on this one. Palmer would be the pick for young player, but I'm tempted to go for Foden. He's been probably the biggest factor in City's second half run this year. I mean, certainly the end of the season, that game where he just scored two in about 10 minutes and just completely sat everybody down and ended the fun and joy that we're all supposed to be having on the end of the season, was quite something to behold. If you haven't already, please click the like and subscribe buttons. It'd be very helpful. I was talking to Dan, sorry to bore you with analytics for one moment, but very interesting. A lot of our traffic apparently comes from people that haven't subscribed, which is really interesting to see there are people sitting there watching, but not clicking the subscribe button. And it's not like Sky or BT or any of those things. You don't have to pay any money. You just literally got to push a little button. Now, you don't even have to have notifications come up if you don't want to. But it does, help us out. So if you could, that'd be amazing. We'd really, 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 really appreciate that. So with that in mind, we move on to the Manchester United Awards, of which there are 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to be given out. And the first of which is this one, which is the Manchester United Surprise of the Season. Now, that should be a player. So that is what we are looking for here. Which player for Manchester United do you think has been the unexpected delight, the person that's made you go, ooh, and really sort of buoyed you during a season which, let's be honest, has had more ups and downs than a particular tricky roller coaster? Matt, we'll kick off with you on this one. Who's been your surprise of the season?
It's not somewhat it's not so much of a surprise in more of a negative way, but for me, probably Mainu. How he's just sort of slotted straight into the first team, and he just looks like he's been playing the first team for years. That's probably the biggest surprise for me. So yeah, my pick on that one was Mainu. But there is a few like Johnny Evans is a good shout as well. What someone's just put in the chat. He's actually not expected to play a handful of games this season. He's been brilliant. But yeah, my pick was Mainu. Just the way he slotted into the team this season, he's just looked. Yeah, he's one of our, along with Bruno, he's been one of our better players. So yeah, for me, Mainu definitely my pick for surprise of the season.
It's interesting. I mean, lots of people here saying Mainu wasn't as much of a surprise considering how good he looked in pre-season. I probably would have gone with Mainu as well. That was the one that came to mind when I was thinking about it, for sure. But again, a good shout out there for Johnny Evans as well. Dan, I assume you're going to go for Harry Maguire.
No, can't be Mainu. It's got it's one of those. It's not a surprise because we've all heard that he was going to be quality and he looked good in pre-season.
Yeah, but did you think he was going to be that good?
Well, this is what I mean. It's really hard not to get really excited about how good he is, but I'm trying to temper my own expectations because he is genuinely one of them players that you think he's not really got a ceiling. It's whatever he wants it to be, and you don't see that in players all the time. And he's got it. I just hope he keeps it. So it is a surprise because looking good in pre-season and having the hype around you and actually coming and doing it is two different things. And he's come and he's made himself look incredible. Like I need to calm down a bit. So yeah, can't be Mainu for me all day.
Simon saying you can't really count Butterfingers and Arno. You've probably got 10 of them, to be fair, or 8 and 2 thumbs. That's what I would go for there. Andrew, are you creating the hat trick? Is it going to be a Kobbie Mainu hat trick, or are you going to bless us with your season ticket match going fan delights and tell us that it's somebody else that can keep up the sleeves?
No, I'm going to make it a hat trick.
Sure,
Gotta be Mainu for me. I mean, just cause looking back, the pre-season he got that injury, and then we had to wait until he got his first Premier League start of the season. And what a start it was away at Everton. Obviously, that game people remember for Garnacho's brilliant goal, but is where Mainu announced himself as a real talent, and we thought he just kicked on from there. He was so composed in the midfield, and even like a few days later when we played Galatasaray away, and it's always tricky going away to Galatasaray, but he handled himself well there as well. And you just look across the season, the goal away at Wolves to win it, was like for a kid at 19 years old to do that, just like calm and composed, like I'm gonna grab the game by the scruff of the neck and I'm gonna win it for us. And even in the FA Cup final as well, just like the maturity showed was like wise beyond his years. And I'm just like, and I think somebody put up on social media, I think it was the Carabao Cup final last season, and after the game, Ten Hag was talking to Kobbie Mainu and what exactly was said, but you'd think that a year later he was playing in a final, so I knew the talent was there, but just like how good he has been, you just now need somebody going forward into next season, someone alongside him that can also bring out even more of the best of him.
For sure. I mean, Simon's saying McTominay also a decent shout in terms of coming in and jumping in for some goals. Simon saying that Mainu is going to be a good un. I should say he's going to be the main man for sure with the rate that he is going at. Would a surprise also be valid on how bad a player was? No, NT. On this occasion, it was not designed to be the negative one. But it's very interesting because you have put out here, when Simon's put Mainu to shine in the Euros, but you put here, I'm going to give Mainu probably every other award. So just playing devil's advocate until my bias is exposed. So with that in mind, let's move on to the next superb award, which NT has already just put Kobbie Mainoo straight smack bang in the middle for. So the Manchester United underperformer of the season. So Kobbie Mainoo, an early shout from NT, which is a surprise, which is maybe why he's in the surprise of the season. Right? Now, I need to be clear on this one. I'm going to see that's how it works. You see, that's exactly, you're just humbled, put you straight back down again. Don't get overexcited. That's what we like to do here. I need to be clear. This is not a platform on which we're going to sit here and try and have a go at players. That's not the plan. In very much the same way as we looked at the overachievers and the most improved player for the Premier League, this is very much just one of those where it is compared to last season or compared to the hype that they've had, who hasn't quite managed to perform at the level that they did last season. And I think it's going to be interesting because I think a lot of the squad could find themselves up for this one, bearing in mind, we were up finishing high as a kite last season, but this season not so much. So it's not designed to sit there and just be a stick to beat players with, but it's just who it is who we think has not quite managed to hit the heights of last season. So we started with Dan on the last one, didn't we? No?
I can't remember.
You have very few jobs. I know you were the last one. She was the hat trick for Mainoo. It was Andrew. You did the hat trick, so it must have been Matt who started. So it's you, Dan. Off you go.
This one's a hard one. I'm sort of stuck between two. I think Rashford. I think Rashford's a fair shout, and the reason I say Rashford is because if he would have chipped in with 20, 25 goals this season, I think we make top 4. Because you look at the league table and we was missing goals. So if he could have chipped in with what he chipped in with last season, he would have helped carry us to top 4 for sure. And then Casemiro, for a very similar reason. His performances last season got us Champions League football, whereas his performances have been somewhat off it this season that we've missed out. And then honestly, they're the two that spring to mind, but there's so many players that have underperformed.
So which one are you can't have two. It's not that sort of game, mate.
I'm gonna go for Rashford because I just think that if we could have had his goals this season, it would have made a huge difference to us.
But I've got to be clear as well, this one won't be going out on Twitter. We're not going to be sitting there going, underperformer of the season, that's you, sunshine. Like I said, it's not a stick to me, it's a discussion point. It's the sort of thing you'd talk about in the pub, and that's very much what we try to go for here. But I think Marie here, very good shout. A lot of people potentially talking about Eriksen. He was a big part of last season, didn't really play too much, and when he did, wasn't ideal. I think very interesting as well. Simon, you've sort of gone a little bit for Mount and Martial there, which is very interesting, but then they're injured. So it's an underperformance if they're not playing. That's, that's just sort of is what it is. And Anthony again, another good shout there. So, Andrew, you have the opportunity now to pick somebody different, or is it going to be, as Tulumba says, Lord Rashford? Apparently he's been knighted and put into the House of Lords.
Yeah, reluctantly I say Marcus Rashford, because when you compare it to the previous season, what he did in terms of the goals he scored, it's not been on the same level. So You think Rashford now, he's 26 years old. He's, no longer young in terms of football. So he's entering like the peak years. So it's just, I think we were saying a while back on another show whether he can he perform on the highest level season after season, and just for some reason this season, it didn't seem to click in every way. So, and obviously there's been off the field issues, which, like I say, he's afforded. He can have a private life and he can do what he wants off the field. So it's been, you'd probably say it's been a disappointing season, but on the caveat that it's just some of the criticism he got. And I mean, in the final, I thought he's one of our best players as well. So he's like stretching that City wide line, the ball over to Garnacho. So it's like when Rashford went off, and I think it was the 70th minute, I thought our chances of getting a third goal was probably diminishing. So that's how key he was probably going to be getting the third goal. And you could see how much it meant to him, when we won the FA Cup, because you could see tears in his eyes. And there was a certain someone, on another channel said, "Oh, he's crying for tears." Well, no, crying for PR. And I was like, he's not. He's crying because he's come through this club from a young age, and he gets it. It was like he's living his dream being at United. So to say he was doing it for PR, he wasn't. So that's what rankled with me. It was like afterwards, I was like, no, he hasn't. So, but Marcus will admit by his own standards, he hasn't been quite there. So, but hopefully, he's obviously not in the Euro squad for the summer, so he can come back and hit the ground running. So, not going to use might be a blessing in disguise for him.
I agree. I mean, Andy's saying he thinks Rashford's confidence was just absolutely destroyed second half of the season. I just think it's incredible for me. I mean, lots of people saying Rashford has been not taken to the Euros and that's a wake-up call. But again, if I'm Rashford, I'd sort of be sitting there and going, do you know what, Gareth? Just stick England up your backside. Because you're telling me I can't go and play when I've still turned out reasonably well, for the most part. And they're going to pick Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire and people that have been injured. Luke Shaw's done nothing this season. Nothing, because he's been injured. But we're going to go and risk him because he's a left back and because we know how good he can be. Well, we know how good Rashford can be. And I think that's the key thing when we start talking about underperformer of the season, because we know how well they can perform. He scored 30 goals last season. We know his capabilities. And you mentioned the FA Cup final. We saw there the range of passing that he's got. When he's on it, he's absolutely unbelievable and potentially unplayable. So really, very interesting. And exactly this, the fact he's taken Grealish and not Rashford, when we know that Rashford has done better than Jack Grealish this season as well. So we talk about PR spin. I think it's all that. And I disagree. The fact, about the crocodile tears, like you say, of course he's not just turning it on. I think, I really do think some people need to just sit and consider how that must feel to support a club, to love a club, to have it fully in your blood. We're all Man United fans. But to then have the very people that have been cheering your name, calling you all manner of good things for your charity work and everything else that you've done and the work that you've done on the pitch, and to have a section of those people effectively say, leave our club, you're no good, we don't want you, and to just turn their back on you, I think that's new heights. I don't know that's been seen at Manchester United before, and I can understand why that would be painful. Take a look at Phil Jones. He probably felt a lot of that as well. Matt, is it another hat trick?
Yeah, I was sort of between Casemiro and Rashford. Casemiro just because of the drop-off from how he performed last season. It was quite a significant drop-off. But yeah, Rashford was, I think, sadly the obvious one. Like I say, there's been a lot going on this season with Rashford. Like I say, it's clear how much he loves the club. Like that, the guys have been saying, obviously, after the FA Cup final, you could see how emotional he was, how much it meant to him, to the fact that he's won something. It just emphasised how disappointed he must be personally with his own performances this season. Obviously, certain fans say it's PR, this and that. They don't understand. Obviously, it's one of them. They don't understand obviously what's going through a player's mind, but it's very, very clear that he does care about the club despite how he's performed this season. But yeah, he has been the underperformer to what we expect him to be, level to be at. But you never know. Next season, we could be talking about him as a player of the season. Who knows?
Absolutely that. I mean, well, Simon thinks he knows. He's saying he's definitely off to Saudi, which I think is wishful thinking on your part there. Although Simon, the other Simon, mentions that Rashid could play alongside another crybaby Ronaldo who's lost in the cup final. Very nice. John Commode saying, is there an issue between Rashid and Southgate? Rashford pulled out of internationals last season. Southgate had a little dig. Wouldn't surprise me if there were issues. Let's just hope that Southgate doesn't come and be manager here. And now you're talking about psychology, Barry. Agree. Well, absolutely. I always talk about it eventually. You know, psychology is a big part of it. It's just not everything. It's the big wad of it. And let's not forget 100 million Grealish was an unused sub last week, and they don't talk about that exactly. So I would tend to agree. But I do think it has to be Rashford, really, doesn't it? If you're going to score 30 goals in one season and then not even manage half the next, it's a big drop-off. But I do think Casemiro, probably lucky to not be earning that one, because it was a sharp decline for someone who is, you know, a very good player. So, yeah. Right, on to the next one. And the good news is that it all gets a little bit sort of, I'd say mostly happier. There's still two sort of bad bits, but there's just things we discuss about. We'll see how it goes, see what you think. For now, though, it's the MUFC. As you can see, I've got bored of writing Man United all the time. The MUFC match of the season. Now, this is a big one because I've got to be honest, can I give Mainu this one? He's not a match, my friend. So it'd be very different. Yes, I remember that game where Mainu played against all the team on his own. But it will be very interesting to see where you choose to go for it, because I think there's only going to be, well, there's potentially two, I think, possible answers here. Be very interesting. Oh, Dan's going with three, and he's last on this one, so presumably he's going to come up with the third one. Andrew Wall, what do you reckon? Build me up, Buttercup.
Yeah, there's two for me, and it's obviously United Liverpool in the FA Cup and City in the FA Cup final, but both City in the FA Cup final, it was just the whole team effort that, last Saturday was just, when the start of the FA Cup fight, it was like, after like 26, at least we're not 1-0 down already. So I thought we made a good start, but then it was just like every player put their body on the line, and I think we were all surprised when we were 2-0 up. I was thinking everyone expected City to batter us to death, and it'd be City would roll us over, and we'd be like, it'd be another disappointment for United. But every player stood up for it. So, but yeah, City in the FA Cup final.
Okay, Matt. Lots of people coming up with some ones here. We'll look at those just before we let Dan speak. What's your choice?
It was between the Liverpool game and the cup final. I think they were the two standouts. I did opt for the Liverpool quarter-final one in the end, mainly because I was actually at that game, and it's probably one of the best games I've ever been to at Old Trafford. The atmosphere was just something else. And for a last-minute injury time win against Liverpool of all teams, and it just literally messed Liverpool's season up from there, which just tops it off, which all the more reasons to give it as a game of the season for me. But yeah, the FA Cup final without doubt is definitely up there, if not level with it. It's a tricky one. It's hard to pick one really, but yeah, I'd pick the Liverpool one just because I was there.
Yeah, for me, this is where the awards really begin. We've had all that other stuff. It's a bit like when the WWE has a pre-show. Now we're finally into the big stuff. It's really kicking on. So would you give up the trophy? No, I don't know anybody is talking about that. You can't have it. Listen, you've had enough. So there you go on that one. That Wolves game is my second or third shout, he says, and that is because we've got some other ones. Let's see if any of these rank in. So JJ's mentioned the 3-2 against Villa, which I've got to be honest, now I sit and think about it, does make me recall back that Boxing Day with absolute delight. So that one would definitely be on a list for me as well. He then mentions the 4-3 semi-final victory and goes on to point out it was the quarter-final. not the semi-final. The semi-final definitely wasn't match of the season. He said, "You're not wrong. This laptop, this very same laptop, nearly ended up on the M1 as I nearly threw it out the window." Whilst I wasn't driving at the time. I was on a coach, just in case he was trying to send this off to the Met. John Commode also mentioning the Wolves 4-3 game, and Simon Warner mentioning a win over Newcastle. I'm going to assume that the first two that have been mentioned are the two that you were talking about. Before you even tell us which one you're going for, you're going to have to let us know which one you think is the third one.
This one. It's like John should be
Wolves
sat here
4-3.
tonight. The Wolves 4-3. Just the arrival of Kobe Minu. It's just what I can remember. But another one's just jumped into my head of could arguably be up there for game of the season as well, which was McTominay's brace against Brentford. The 2 goals in the 90th minute. I can just remember being absolutely mental when that happened.
Well, United haven't played well for the whole 90 minutes. It's only in those 6 minutes.
No, yeah. It was the best 6 minutes of football ever. Yeah. But no, for
Marie
me,
throws in here the McTominay stoppage time double against Brentford as well.
yeah.
So there's been a few of them.
Yeah, for me, it's the FA Cup final. Just getting the trophy, winning the trophy. That's all that matters at the end of in the history books. That's all that's going to matter. The fact that we won the FA Cup this year, we did it against some rivals. I wouldn't say bitter rivals, just a team that's got some money at the minute. And there's been lots of different games this season that you can point to that have been really good. But they're the ones that stuck in my head when I was looking at the questions earlier, and just that goal from Kobe Manu, and even I think it was Forson that makes the run to give him the space. I was just wow, and that's when I sat there and thought, what kind of player have we got here to be able to do that after just conceding, basically picking up a team of full seasons professionals as a 19-year-old and doing that. It's madness. But yeah, no, FA Cup final for me though was as performance because we won the FA Cup.
Well, John's also mentioned the 4-2 Newport was a good game for the neutral. And it was, absolutely. NT saying that's not NT, that is. Barry taking text driving to the next level, stream driving. No, not on a coach, my friend, thankfully. It was a good job because if I'd have been listening to that on the radio, I'd have had to have pulled over just so I could let out a few expletives and be safe on the road. I've got to be honest, I would have also thrown in the Liverpool 2-2 game because I was there, I suppose. Would be a big one for me in terms of match of the season, and to see 2 fantastic goals. Fernandes from the centre circle, and of course the Kobe Manu goal as well. So they were big ones. But I think it is a toss up between the cup final and the Liverpool game. But I think I would probably go for the cup quarter final against Liverpool. And number one, because nobody expected us to do anything in it, and before you know it, we've managed to nick it 4-3. We're all thinking, it's going to be extra time. No, not on our watch. But also, I think the thing that tips it for me is they're both in the same competition. And you can't have the City FA Cup final moment without the Liverpool quarter-final moment as well. So because they're in chronological order, I think that's the one I'd go for. But what a tweet that one's going to be when it goes out. Is it the City FA Cup one or the Liverpool FA Cup one? That is going to be really interesting to see how you all vote. It will be absolutely amazing. So there we go. Now, I said there was a couple that were perhaps not so nice as well. And this one is a sponsored award. It's not supposed to be. Hold on. It's the other one that's sponsored. Let me just get rid of that. How? There you go. And it's this one. The worst match of the season. The season that made you go, oh my golly gosh, what am I watching? This one, there's going to be some contenders for this one as well. Matt, you are the king of this one. You get to kick it all off. Which one was the one that got you the closest to getting hold of your remote control and throwing it through the telly?
Again, it was probably between two, but in the end, I opted for Chelsea away. The fact that we absolutely capitulated within a matter of what was it, like a couple of minutes or something, we lost the game. Yeah, that one, it was awful. I literally felt like launching the nearest thing right across the room. Yeah, terrible. Between that and Palace away, which was another dismal performance, but I went for the Chelsea one just because we capitulated in a matter of a couple of minutes, which was embarrassing. So yeah, I went for Chelsea away 4-3.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I think there was a lot there on that one for sure. Simon Warner's come up with the 4-0 drubbing by Palace, the 7-0 defeat to Liverpool. I'm sure they're going to mention Palace away, the Chelsea loss, Palace away, Palace. John's got a bit of a thing to Bournemouth at the minute. Losing 3-0 at home to Bournemouth was the angriest I've felt all season. Didn't I know it as well? Simon's very disappointed in me. The moment when history is written, the cup final. Yeah, I mean, it is, but you've got to beat Liverpool to get there. Otherwise, the history wouldn't have been written, would it? So that was my point. Bournemouth almost made NT cry. I don't know why, but that makes me feel quite bad. Palace was also shocking, but I'd already given up at that point in the season. So, Forest away. Yeah, that one was not tremendous at all. So, Dan, which one would you go for?
I'm going to go slightly different, just from the pure anger that I felt at the time, and it would be the semi-final of the FA Cup. We was a toenail away from me smashing my computer up. Because if that goal isn't given offside and we go out, and to be so comfortable and make it so difficult, I was absolutely fuming. You can't be 3-0 up, and was it 3-0 up? And
it was 3-0 up, yeah.
And then end up basically losing by the 120th minute, only to be rescued by VAR against a team that's in a division lower than you. I was very, very close to breaking some things when that happened. Real Madrid have just scored.
Well, that would be 15 for them if they win today. Very interesting. This is like NT says. Didn't think of picking a game that we won, but we should have with the way that we played. It's a very, very interesting one. You got there before John as well with that as well.
I can't remember being so upset. Obviously, I was upset at the Palace game, etc. But when there was the trophy on the line and it was Ten Hag's future on the line, and I can only imagine if we lost that game, the questions for some of the players, the fan base would have turned. That could be defining. But I was so angry after that game. It took me ages to calm down, even though we won. If I remember rightly, I didn't even watch the penalties. I turned them off and walked away because I don't like watching penalties. So when I came back and we had won, I was relieved, but I've never been so frustrated at a performance since we lost 7-0 to Liverpool.
It was a very interesting one. Yeah, I think that's a really good shout in an interesting way, but it was horrible to watch. But we did win it, and I think that is the key there. Simon's still having a go at me. Say they get there and don't deliver, I'd be more peed off. Well, yeah, but I didn't know. For somebody who talks about psychology, you're taking me down a route of ifs, buts, and maybes. You know, like if the Premier League pulled their fingers out and dealt with your 115 charges, you'd be in the conference now. But we're not doing ifs and buts and maybes, are we? We're doing it's nothing to do with it at the moment, and you've won your fourth, and everybody should be celebrating that from your side. So, you know, ifs, buts, and maybes don't really do it. You've got to beat the team first. It's literally just something I haven't got a hair's width between the two. I don't really feel like there's a wrong answer out of those two. But yeah, it really was. I threw my laptop on a different seat twice. First of all, when the goal went in, and I had to be calmed down. It's offside, man. Okay. So I went to put it back on again, and then when it got to when it got to penalties as well, I was like, oh no, don't want to watch that. It was horrible. But there we go. Andrew, we've had the Chelsea 4-3, the Coventry semi-final. Which one made you rage like John Neville sat next to you in a football match?
I was at this away game. It was Chelsea away. I was absolutely furious. I thought, well, because we was 2-0 down early on, and we thought this is going to be a very long night when it was 2-0 down, but we fought our way back, and then we was ahead, and then I was just like, how from going in the 95th minute to be winning, and then 6 minutes later we lost, and I was like, I just as soon as that fall, I was starting to walk down the steps. I thought, get this final whistle and I'm out of it. And because the previous away game was at Brentford, I thought, I've been to London twice and United have not won, and I'm just like, I remember I had to stop at the service and get something to eat afterwards because I was still raging with anger over what I watched. I remember not getting home until about 2 a.m. in the morning after watching that capitulation from United. So yeah, Chelsea away was it's probably the worst match this season. Well, away match I've been to.
Interesting. Well, I'm gonna pick the Copenhagen 4-3 defeat in the Champions League. I think, losing to Bayern Munich's no disgrace, and Galatasaray have the ability to beat you as well. But again, that Copenhagen one, we'd got ourselves into a position to win the game, and that's basically the result that made sure that we didn't have Champions League football for any Europe for the rest of the season, which was just gutting, really, and something that shouldn't have happened. So, yeah, the Chelsea 4-3 one was bad. But I think that one for me was the disappointing one for me. He's still going. What's he saying? You don't need to put it simplistically. I'm not a moron. I just don't agree with you. I've picked a different one. Like, you must be terrible at the Grand National. Why have you picked a different horse? Just because it's named after your Auntie Ethel. It's like, it is what it is. The significance is you can't win that one without winning that one first. End of. That's just what it is. You're allowed to believe it's the FA Cup final. I'm amazed you're fighting for the FA Cup final, considering how absolutely pony you were for 45 minutes.
And just to poke the bear, I'd say the rivalry is bigger in the Liverpool-Man United game as well, so that gives it a little bit more meaning. Didn't it?
But, it was quite good. I was away for the last couple of days, and I was with me stepdad, he's a Spurs fan, and they're obviously going through the goals, and he just said, that first one was absolutely atrocious, wasn't it? I said, to be honest, I thought it was the best one. It made me giggle. Really enjoyed it. Little header over the top, superb. That made it even better. There we go. All right, well, those are your worst matches. To be fair, you've all pretty much gone with the panel, really, with the ones that you mentioned. But Palace away is another one, so I'll probably put that down as the fourth one for that. So there we go. Okay, right. There's only one more negative one to come, but it's not. Do you know what? Should we do that one now and then it's out of the way and then it can all just be positive? Yes, let's. It's this one. It's the sponsored one. It's the Man United worst moment of the season, sponsored by Doctor Who. It's not really sponsored by Doctor Who, just in case anybody's sitting there and thinking we're getting money in commission. But the one that makes you want to hide behind the sofa and go, I can't believe that's just happened. So obviously for Man City, it might be, like I say, that little header over the goalkeeper, ready for Garnacho to just into an empty net. But what was the moment, just the one individual thing for you that was the worst moment of the season? I will go first on this one. I'm going to pick the Dalot red card. Just genuine. For me, that was the worst moment of the season, because every other moment had, like the Cole Palmer goal, obviously was bad and it made us go, instead of 3-0, it's 4-3. I get all those. But for me, just in general life, to have that double yellow within such quick succession, that really wound me up. Really did wind me up. So that would be my one. But what about the rest of you? Dan, what would you have picked? What was the worst moment for you?
I've got to pick between two. Mine's really similar. One's Rashford's red against Copenhagen. I just thought it set the tone for the season and what was going to happen to us with decisions and just ridiculousness in general. But I think it's just because it's fresh. The one I'm going to pick is Onana dropping the ball in the net in the FA Cup final. Because when he dropped the ball in the net in the FA Cup final, I went, "Oh, here we go again," and I was in pure panic mode that would cost us the final. So for the following 3 minutes of that, it was this is our season in a nutshell. Just an individual mistake when we was in complete control. It's going to take the game away from us again and cause us problems when they didn't need to be problems. And I was just, honestly, I was in disbelief when he went in. I actually thought he tipped it around the post. It wasn't until he started hitting the post that I was like, oh, he's dropped the ball in the net. Well,
No, I agree with Beanie. He didn't drop it in the net. He just
he
flapped
did.
it.
He
Didn't drop it.
basically
He picked it up
dropped
and
it.
go, there you go, have that.
He went like this,
hands
and his
there,
wrists went like
and then
this.
his hands are crumbled.
Yeah, he's
as
crumbled
they
like
do.
a wet biscuit. It's just, it was in that moment, I was like, because City didn't deserve to get back in the game at that point. They were uffing and puffing. They was offering nothing, and they got gifted something that they didn't deserve. And I was just like, this is the season gone. In that moment, you've give City something to press for. So for me, that was one of the worst moments of the season for me, because I just thought, here we go, 2-0 Real Madrid.
Well done. It looks like Real Madrid are going to. They've not had a good end to the season, have they, Dortmund? They won the league and then they've absolutely just lost the
Well,
point.
the irony here is the man that's just scored to make it 2-0 should have been sent off in the first half, because he was on a booking for a late challenge on the goalkeeper and he dived, and the referee saw him dive, said he dived, but didn't book him.
Well, that's just typical referees for you. Beanie actually says Onana, but against Galatasaray, I didn't pick one where he then went on to go and have, I mean, you've picked that as your best moment, City in the FA Cup final, but your worst moment of the season also happened in that game.
Yeah,
I
thought
mean,
it
it's
was
weird.
gone.
JJ, there's so many individual howlers. There has been. High Lane's gone for that fourth Chelsea goal because it wasn't appalling. Simon's gone for VAR, which is less of a moment and more of a continued campaign of. I won't finish that sentence because somebody might watch it back. Garnacho's goal at Arsenal would be up there for me. What's the worst moment? That must be for the best moment, surely.
No, he means the one that got disallowed when he was onside.
Oh, I see. Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense. My bad. JJ, one of mine's a penalty against Chelsea, which let them back into the game. Absolutely. Madrid have won, apparently, because of the 2-0. Yeah, absolutely. Could make a highlight reel of Onana howlers. We could. Then you could also make a highlight reel of his good ones as well, which is quite a thing. This is a good one, NT. Can we count Sancho's social media post after Ten Hag criticised him? Absolutely. I think, that did put a lot of negativity in there, and JJ's agreeing with you there. Andrew, what would you go for? NT's picking one of Onana's blunders, but not one. Hasn't picked a specific one. What are you going for?
Saying I had a few blunders there this season, and he's made up for it across the season. There's been so many bad moments for United. I think the amount of shots we've conceded on goal as well. Surprised we haven't, let more goals in, which is a surprising stat. Just trying to think what's been it probably came in the Palace game, seeing how the level of Casemiro dropped. It was like you could see the legs had gone, and was like he's not playing in being a makeshift defender. It was not for him, and I was just like, it just seemed like he regressed even more throughout the season playing that position. So just sort of not nice to see as well. Because I remember Jamie Carragher saying after that game, said, "Well, his time's done, and he should go to Saudi or wherever." And I'm just like, for somebody that ill, Casemiro has won major trophies. It's just like you want to see a player like that go out on a high, not on a low. It's just that game, but obviously he didn't make the squad for the FA Cup final. But it just seemed. What do I call it? Is it the demise of Casemiro? Because I love what Casemiro did in his first season with us, and just injuries caught up within the amount of games he played. It was just felt like everything caught up with him. But every player in that Palace game he was probably their rock bottom. So yeah, probably Casemiro, in that game, it all became all consuming for him.
Very, yeah. I mean, I think if I was picking a moment from that game, it would have been, I think, the fourth goal where he tries to keep the ball in on the goal line and then just falls over it effectively, just crumpled on the floor whilst they ran off to go and score the fourth goal, and he did just like a shell of the man. Speaking of a shell of a man, Tony Cruz comes off for the last time in a Madrid shirt. I'm presuming, Cammy, that's not a red card. So let us know. No, he's not anymore. It's another interesting one. Leach getting injured after returning for the first time. Yeah, that was a pretty poor moment as well. Matt, you've got loads to choose from. What one are you going to pick?
Funnily enough, mine was actually the same as NT just said. Martinez getting injured and being out for as long as he was. I think it's clear to see how important Martinez is when he's actually in the team. And it kind of sort of set the tone for the season almost, and sort of like everyone else sort of followed injury wise once he was out. But yeah, the other one that was up there as well was the Garnacho offside, the goal against Arsenal. That was quite a close second. But yeah, Martinez being out injured, especially after coming back and being out injured again for another period of time, was definitely the most disappointing thing for me this season.
Some good shouts there. Something's going on with the stream at the moment because JJ's come straight out with a Dortmund goal called offside. John's going 2-1. Presumably, it's not been called offside on John's TV, but on JJ's TV it has been. Or JJ's just assuming it's going to get called offside. Who knows what's going on here? If only we had an actual telephone link to find out what's going on. But Dan does keep up with these sort of things. Is it offside?
Yeah, offside.
Yeah, still 2-0. Should have listened to Beanie. That works. There we go. It's off. They think it's offside. It is now. Very good. Excellent. Right. Well, that was the worst one, which means that we've got our last 3 awards, and the good news is that all of those are good and easy ones. So let's go for one that I think is probably going to be quite a short round, but we shall see. The Man United app has already announced who has won this for the club. We all know that the Garnacho overhead kick against Everton has won all the plaudits. It won the match of the day, goal of the season as well. I feel it's probably going to win this one as well. But there is a couple of goals from the FA Cup final as well, specifically that one from Mainu that could potentially... No, you have got a chance. You can pick Mainu if you want. Nobody's going to... Well, I say nobody's going to have a go at you, Simon, mate. If you haven't picked the right one. But other than that, you'll be fine. So, joking, Simon, it's fine. Pick what you like. Andrew, did I ask you? I can't remember who I asked first. For this one. I'm just going to go with you. Andrew, which one is your goal of the season?
You'd think the most obvious would be Garnacho for that spectacular bicycle kick, but for me, it's mainly in the cup final. I mean, he's effectively started the move and he finished the move. I mean, just everything about that was it was a team goal. You know, the play involved, the pass from Rashford over to Garnacho drawing it for Bruno. Because as I was watching it, I thought, oh, Bruno's going to hit it here in towards goal, and then suddenly I thought he's passed it, and it was like, and there was Kobe, and it was like, and it's in, and just eruption everywhere. So, but yeah, just. That would be the goal of the season for me. Kobe's, our second goal in the Cup final.
Very good. I mean, I love High Lane's breakdown, really, to be fair, the Garnacho goal, but honourable mentions for Bruno against Liverpool. And honestly, when he kicked that ball, I was just like, what's he doing? You see it going, you're like, oh my God, the man's an absolute legend. Mainly in the final for the build-up, it is just a superb goal. And of course, Ahmad. I mean, it made me giggle. That one has won the FA Cup goal of the year as well, goal of the tournament. And I mean, it's not the greatest, really, is it? When you look at it finish wise, the more you watch it, it's not technically the greatest goal, I don't think. But clearly, the vast swathes of Man United fans, we've all just gone, we're just going to pick that one because it was the only one with a United player in. And we've just taken it over, absolutely, and rightly so, because that's what Man United fans should do. So there we go. Oh, here we go. What's happening now? Now I'm referring to the cup final. Why? Significance. It was a good goal. Absolutely. The greatest scuff of all time. Exactly. Well, maybe not of all time, I would argue the greatest scuff of all time was Ryan Giggs. It was the double scuff, Giggsy and Sheringham. That was a pretty important one. But there we go. He's got to reset the autocorrect. What is a wolf? And that's because he's gone for Mainus, which was the good use of the possessive apostrophe, versus wolves. And something is owned to wolf, which is impossible because that would be a wolf. You definitely need to reset yours for sure. Matt, goal of the season for you, sir.
I think the obvious one's Garnacho, but I'm not going to pick that one because that's like the obvious one. I'm going to go for Bruno against Liverpool, where he shot. Admittedly, it wasn't open net, but the audacity to even attempt it from there. First time, for me, that was definitely. I would pick Garnacho as the best, but I don't know what I'd be like to go with the obvious one. I thought I'd go with something a bit different. I've picked the Bruno one against Liverpool from the halfway line or wherever it was. It was a cracker of a goal and very unexpected as well at the time.
Sure. I mean, they were two superb goals, and I know Andrew will stick up for us on this one as well with the Mainu one because we were just in the right spot, really, weren't we, to see that just fell from his right behind you. It was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing.
Because United, United put out like a video days later because it was like similar to Makeda's goal against Villa. So the turn, the shot, and then into the corner, just eerily similar it was both those goals.
Absolutely. Well, it's very interesting. We've got the Mainu Cup final, Bruno against Liverpool. Nobody's gone for Garnacho just yet. Dan, are you going to be the person that goes for Garnacho, taking the easy route out, or have you got yourself another little beauty?
Bugger off, John. Bastard. Pardon my French. This was the goal. It's like he's in my head.
I've already put that up once.
This is the goal I was going to go for. Bruno against Burnley with the Johnny Evans raking pass from the halfway line, and he hit it on the volley, and it was like a recreation of Rooney Van Persie the other way. So across the opposite direction of the pitch. So that's the goal I 100% would have gone for. Mr. Commode's in my head tonight. I don't like it.
It's very interesting how much you're all liking each other's, but I think a lot of people are going Garnacho. So Garnacho's goal is going to go up against three very good ones.
I didn't know whether anybody would remember that goal, to be honest with you, Barry. That's why I liked it.
Of course, John's going to remember it. It's mobile now. He comes up with these things out of absolutely nowhere. Oh, hello. Oh, God, here we are.
Yeah,
We've got a psychology degree with Simon. John's got a psychic degree. Dan's got a sidekick degree. So it's all going on at the moment. It really is. So they've got lots of good choices there. 2 more awards to go. And this one is a good one. It's the moment of the season. So this is a good one because it doesn't just have to be about a goal. It could be, I think I know what Andrew Walls is going to be in terms of where he was and all those sorts of things. But he'll be the last one. So maybe his one will be Nick's and he'll have to just either agree with it or put in something different. But Matt, for you, if you could just capture just one thing and put it in a bottle so you could drink it when you're feeling glum or disappointed, what would that moment be?
Probably refer back to the Ahmad winner against Liverpool. Just again, because I was there, just to experience it actually in person was probably just something you're probably not going to forget for quite a while. The stadium was absolutely bouncing. So yeah, for me, that was definitely the best moment of the season for me. To actually pick a game out of all the games I go to, and it had to be that one. Yeah, 100% the best moment for me, that one.
It was an amazing moment. It really, really was an amazing moment. And I can still remember just watching it and just going absolutely mad. And the thing about that game really was just how much end-to-end difference it had. You know, you're ahead, you're behind. It was just an amazing game. And I think those games, like you take the Chelsea one as well as an example, that they sort of mirror each other. We've had the joy of it being for us against Liverpool and the negativity of it being us against Chelsea. They're still, when you look at them, great games in terms of the neutral, but they're so much better. So much better. when you win. Now, John has gone for Ahmad's goal, which is what Matt's gone for. He was at the St. Patrick's Festival, and his wife even told him to calm down. Interesting. Okay. Clearly been on the AO for that one then. That's for sure. St. Patrick's Festival. And we've seen you when you had a couple, John, so I can understand what your wife was doing there. Simon's gone for when you unfortunately lifted the FA Cup. Absolutely. It was a significant moment for sure. And one of the moments for NT was the baby Trinity. Garnacho, Mainu, and Hoyland sitting on the advertising board. That was quite a thing. JJ woke up and chose violence straight in with that one. He's picking literally about now, which was quite something. And indeed, an Honours Cup save. What are you going for, Dan?
There's just so many. It's the FA Cup lift for me. Underdogs going into it, and we performed really well. And getting to see Maguire lift the trophy was extra special.
Which is what NT's gone for as well. And I've got to be honest, I felt like that was going to be Andrews, seeing us lift the FA Cup at Wembley, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Which one have you gone for, Andrew?
Just for I've gone. It's caught me out. I was thinking the FA. No, Ahmad goal. Just the sheer euphoria of that goal when he was breaking away and Garnacho had the ball, was like, pass it to Ahmad. And he did, and we thought, he's missed his opportunity. And then when he hit it, it was like sharp intake of breath from the crowd. It was like, eruption like you wouldn't believe. If Old Trafford had a roof, it'd have blown off, because it was just like, and to do it against Liverpool as well, it was just like, it was even more special to send, So last time we were seeing Jurgen Klopp at Old Trafford as well, sending him on his merry way. So it was just like, and that game just, I think, had everything you think out of a cup tie, And Liverpool were, like City were in the final, Liverpool were the favourites to beat us in that quarter final as well. So I was just like, and then, because Ahmed got sent off after that as well. We was just getting a round of applause for what he did. And luckily, I remember when Rashford had equalised to make it 3-3, and I thought, we've got another 10 minutes left. And I thought, I can't take penalties. I just can't. My heartbeat can't, and the emotions of it. I just thought, we need to win this. And then, just for sheer euphoria, that moment. As you say, without that moment, we wouldn't have got to the semi-final and then on to the final. So, lifting the FA Cup, he's up there, but just that. Thrill and rush.
Okay, fair enough. So 2 for the. So that one, to just confirm, that was the Ahmad goal again.
The Ahmad goal.
And you said that if it had had a roof, it might have come off. Well, it probably did, and that's why it ended up raining in this
yes.
A few months later. That's probably what happened.
So
after all that, it's your fault. Brilliant. Yeah. Well done, you. John's just throwing a disclaimer out there. He wasn't on the ale. He was driving. Just because he goes wild doesn't mean he's had a drink. Okay, well, fair enough. Fair enough. I can confirm I wasn't drinking last week, but everybody thought I was. I was that joyful. At one point, I commandeered the speaker and had "We Are the Champions" going on whilst I was holding the speaker aloft over my head. So, yeah, it was a lovely moment. Lovely moment indeed. Right, well, there we go. That's the moment of the season. I really should have been paying attention to what I was doing, because we have one last award, and it's the obvious one, really. Just going to make sure it is written so that John Commode can't have a go at me. There we go. It's the player of the season for Manchester United. That's the one. So it's a big one, obviously, for the club. Bruno Fernandes won it. It's going to be incredibly interesting to see, after everything that we've gone through, who could possibly win this. There's arguments for Onana, arguments potentially for Dalot, Evans, Mainu, Garnacho potentially, maybe even Hoyland, 16 goals and the top goal scorer for us this season. Lots of people we could choose from. apart from just Bruno. I was going to start with Dan, but he's not here. So, there he is. Hello, welcome back. Who was your player of the season?
Bruno. I can't really elaborate. Just Bruno. He's been the best player. He's been the most consistent player since he joined United, however many years ago. Most consistent player again. Feel sorry for him. I wish he was playing with a Kobe Mainu that was 23, Garnacho was 25, Hoyland was 25, because he would be getting a lot more plaudits than he gets now, because I'd imagine his assist rate and goal rate would be crazy. And then special shout out to Dallo, who I think has been the most improved player for us this season.
Okay. Andrew?
Yeah, Bruno for me. I mean, just what he's done for us in the last 4 years since he arrived. I was thinking, where would we be without him? So he's put in performances after performances. You know, he's rarely been injured, except those few games he missed this season. But I mean, just look at the FA Cup final. He provided like 5 of the 6 key passes, and you think that pass for the Mainu goal was just like, and you can see before that goal went in, he'd looked 3 times. He knew where Mainu was, and was like, if this ball comes to me, I will get it to you, and I'll get you to score. So, but I mean, he's delivered captain performances throughout the whole season. So, and he's dragged the players kicking and screaming at times. You know, you need to match my effort as well. So, I can only do so much, but you've got to do the hard work with me as well. So, yeah, but also special mention to Dallo as well. He's been one of the key players this season. So, but yeah, our Portuguese Magnifico, Bruno Fernandes.
He has gone. Has to be Bruno for me too. Really backing up my Mainu statement earlier, because he's literally, I don't think, has not mentioned Mainu once since he said he was going to choose him for everything. So there we go. Obviously, it's Fernandes, correct, although he did mention Dallo earlier as well. Matt, are you going to surprise me? Are you going to give me a reason to tweet a poll, or are we just going to be making a fancy graphic that says he is the AFU player of the season, which, let's be honest, is the most lucrative trophy you can possibly win?
Yeah, Bruno. 100%, without doubt. He's just been the most consistent, most available player. I feel like at times this season, I don't know how true it is, apparently he's actually been playing with injuries as well, and he's made himself available, which you couldn't say for a lot of the other players. And apparently, I think it was at the Sheffield game, he played with a broken hand or something, a broken wrist or something I read. Phenomenal. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Captain for a reason. Yeah, 100% Bruno. Fantastic, yeah, without a doubt. But Dallo, yeah, like the other guys have said, Dallo deserves a shout as well. He's after Bruno, he's had a good solid season.
Well, I wasn't going to ask this because obviously I couldn't preempt what was going to occur. But obviously, Matt, we need to give a little bit of a round of applause to. He's doing some work on the social media for our Twitter group at the moment. So he is putting a lot of all the news and that sort of thing. All the fact stuff is me, but all of the news and keeping up with what's going on and making sure we get regular input out. So regular output, maybe, rather than input outputted. I don't know. It's getting late, lads. But that's him. And it's really good to see. One of the things he pointed out was the fact that Bruno's agent has allegedly been courting his services elsewhere and meeting with some other people. And obviously Bruno wants to stay. He's been very clear about the fact he wants to stay. But it was interesting that he said in his final sort of interview that if the club wants me, you know, they need to sort of show that they want me. And if they don't want me, then I'll go. That seemed like a really pointed sort of statement to make. The question that Matt put out there was, what do we need to do to make sure that Bruno stays? I'll give you 45 seconds each. What do we need to do to make sure Bruno stays? Because we've just said he's the player of the season for us this season. He's won 3 player of the season awards. He's won behind Ronaldo and David De Gea, who both have 4. What do we need to do to keep him? Start with Matt. Seems how he
Not
asked.
with
the
me.
question.
Yeah, it's fine. I think a lot of it's just down to the club, to be honest with you. I think they just need to show the ambition. I think that's going to be key. Where he's had talks with Ineos. I'm not too sure. From what he's been saying, it sounds like he wants to stay, which is the most important thing. But I think a lot of it will depend on the club. And obviously their ambitions, because the last few years, the standards have been nowhere near what they should be at the club. A lot of it will come down to the club's ambitions. Again, would you give him a new contract? Personally, yeah, I would. But then you're going down the road of big wages again, and then other players are starting, so you're getting down that problem. But I think the key thing is the ambition of the club. They need to sort of prove that to him. But it's very clear he wants to stay. That goes without saying.
Well, is it best he's just make him the highest paid player and get him a real right winger?
I don't think that's the answer.
Andrew, I actually responded to what Matt put on there using my own account, because ordinarily that's the answer, isn't it? Give him what he wants. Give him what was it that Rio said? Put the contract out, give him what he wants. Just make sure he signs for Ollie. I think this is something we can't do. I think it needs to be all performance related. And Bruno, to me, I think is the sort of guy who would go, yeah, I can do that. If it's score 15 goals this season, I'll go and that's what I'll try and do. If it's, have 20 goal involvements, so it doesn't have to be goals, it could be assists. All of those things, I think he would do. Win bonuses. That's where the money needs to be given, isn't it? So that it's proportional to what we've achieved, not just going the Sanchez route where we just go, here's 300 grand a week, enjoy it. It's irrelevant whether you play well or not. You're going to get this money until your contract ends or we sell you. What would you do to keep him?
Say match his ambition, as he put in that letter. He says, "Look, we want to be winning the major trophies, and it's disappointing." As he said, we're disappointed when we lose, and it's like we've got to do better. So the owners have got to match, what he wants. I think it's more than just money for Bruno, more than just money for him. It's just like he wants to be playing in the best team, and delivering for us fans as well. So if not, then a bit like what Ten Hag said after the Cup on, if you want me, you'll keep me. If you don't, we'll bugger off and we'll go and win somewhere else. Which, for me, you just don't want to lose a player like Bruno, because there's going to be some day where he will go, but hopefully it's not for many years to come. So, but let's say just tie him down a bit longer, but match his ambition at the same time.
Okay, well, Danny boy, you starred Simon's response to this. He's talking about money. I presume you want to bring that up. So bring that up and your points as well. How do we keep Bruno Fernandes at this football club?
So it's the one player in the whole entire Man United squad that I don't think you can label that in terms of he's talking about money. I don't think it's anything to do with money. Bruno Fernandes would probably sign a new deal on the wages he's on now, and as long as the club's going to back his ambition, it's about bringing in the players around him that means he's going to lift more trophies. So this is a player that if you put him in the City team, the biggest compliment you would say is City probably would still win everything they win because he's that high of a quality player. It's the same with if you took him and blocked him in Arsenal's team next season, it'd probably give him enough to win the league because he's that good of a player. And we underappreciate how good he is because we haven't got the right players around him at the minute, or there's too much youth around him at the minute. I would do anything we could to keep him at the club, to be honest. But it will speak volumes if we sell him to Bayern Munich for, say, 80 million or whatever, because we can't match his ambition. If the club think that that's a problem, they can't match his ambition, then we should be really worried. But they need to go out and sign the players that he feels is going to take the club back to where they belong. It's not going to be a quick thing. And the problem is for Bruno Fernandes in particular, you've seen our players drop off quickly. It could happen to him. I don't think it will quickly, but it could happen. It's really similar to the Rooney situation. They've got to get it right. So they either do it this season and sell him this season because they can't match his ambition short term, or they match his ambition and they keep him at the club. So, but it's going to be a tough decision this summer for those involved.
No, absolutely. And I think, Bruno is one of those people who just works hard. And like you say, I think he does want just people around him that are going to be winners. And my hope is that that's what he wants to do. I've got an additional further question, which I didn't think I was going to ask. But it's a very simple one because it requires just a simple answer. And the answer is this. Everybody's talking about Bruno Fernandes. Having watched it, so it is with the benefit of hindsight, I'll grant you that. But the FA Cup final, you've got the option to swap Bruno Fernandes for Kevin De Bruyne before the game. Would you have kept Bruno, or would you have put this world-class Kevin De Bruyne, who's supposed to be the standard bearer for that position, would you have put him in there? Because I thought De Bruyne was anonymous for the vast
He's
majority.
still in Amrabat's pocket.
That's what I mean. And you could tell because his hair, my God, it made Connors look good. Like, what? It was unbelievable what was going on with his hair. Some might say I'm just jealous about that. But yeah, that's the question. Matt, who would you have gone for, Bruno or KDB?
Bruno, every day of the week.
Yeah,
De
Andrew?
Bruyne was anonymous.
Definitely Bruno. There's no question about it.
Dan?
I won't trade Bruno. I'll have this argument till I'm blue in the face. Bruno's better than Kevin De Bruyne.
Here we go. And that's it. I think we're talking about Casemiro dropping off. I'll be very intrigued to see if KDB. I'm not even sure KDB is better than Foden at the moment this season. I don't think he's had his best one. He has been, up to this point, one of the most glorious midfielders and attackers that there's been in the game, without a shadow of a doubt. But I think this season, Foden has definitely overshadowed him a bit. I think Bruno is the man for when it came to the FA Cup final. He definitely won that battle and he took it a little bit there. And exactly that. As much as we love KDB, he seems to have fallen off. Exactly what I was saying. Right then, it is time for us to end our stream. It's been a bit of a longer one than normal, but these award shows do have the possibility for that to happen. So there we go. JJ just finishing up. They need to introduce a proper wage structure. You are correct. And hopefully they will. Big thank you to everyone who's been on the show this evening. We'll be back hopefully on Wednesday. We are looking to be doing an end of season review. That's where we get to run through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we talk a little bit more about some of these key highlights of the season and how that has gone. But all that's left to say is thank you very much to everybody in the chat. Thank you to everybody in the comments, in the panel, for everything that you've done. I hope you have a wicked week, and we will see you on Wednesday. Bye all.